Folks, I have 7 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and call to order this June 13, 2023 meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Town of White Lake. I know Paul had contacted us and advised he would not be able to be here tonight. Have we heard from Dean or Tim?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, we have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and get started. And I assume that they'll be coming in. At least we hadn't heard anything from them at this point. At this time, I'd ask you to bow your heads for the invocation. Dear Lord, we wish to thank you for giving us the opportunity to be able to gather here this evening to discuss the business of our town. We would ask that you guide and direct us as we attempt to do your will and to do those things that are in the best interest of the citizens of this town. These things we ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. The next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. All those in the audience are welcome to join in. I would ask Commissioner Suggs, if you would, to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right. The first item that we have are our consent agenda items that are contained in 1A through 1F. Do any of the board members have any questions for staff in regard to those items? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda containing items 1A through 1F as presented.
So moved.
Motion second.
Second.
Any discussion? If none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Item 2 is our administrative matters. We have 4 matters included in the agenda tonight on that. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Sean to present those 4 items.
Thank you, Mayor. First item is our report to the town White Lake Town Board from Diane Lawrenson, dealing with our lake management project. There's a couple of topics in her report, and I would just remind the audience and remind the council that the report is available online, whitelakewatch.com, and it's also available through a link on our website, whitelakennc.org. But the first topic of conversation in the report deals with rainfall and the lake levels. Just as an idea, there's actually a couple of charts listed here that show you some historical data from January to November, based on 2023, 2022, and 2021. So there's several years worth of data included in the report, but she does mention that during the month of May, that would be May 2023, that we had very little rain, 1.5 inches total, in fact, and that the lake level has dropped 3.6 inches by the end of May, from the beginning of May, which brings the lake level to that 64 feet NAVD 88 number. The second item on her report does talk about the White Lake Thursday night bass fishing tournament. And there's a table here with some statistics from the tournament, but it does say that the fish are a little bit larger than what's being recorded in Lake Waccamaw. I think there's some comparison data at the state level taking place from these tournaments. And for record, there were 13 boats on April 13th. There were 38 boats on June the 1st, and there were some tournaments taking place all in between there with some increase in numbers. And then her third topic does talk about why the bass fishing is so good. She highlights nutrients, nitrogen levels being higher, shallowness, very long growing season, and sunlight, which reaches lake bottom, and does have some information related to that. Her fourth item in her report is May clarity trends, and she's really stating that the clarity is similar to what we've seen in 2021 and 2022. She has several different measures that are recorded here. There's a Secchi depth disc recording data. There's turbidity data recording, chlorophyll data recorded, and pH recorded. And she does mention on pH that pH levels are higher when algal photosynthesis is higher and lower when there is little algal biomass. And then lastly, she mentions the Turtle Cove outlet, and that the town needs to pursue maintaining this outlet, mostly through flood mitigation concerns with North Carolina DQ and North Carolina State Parks. And staff would remind the board that we are actively working on a maintenance agreement and the parameters of that agreement with Sanitary State Parks. And it's my understanding that Sanitary State Parks has taken the rough draft of this agreement to the state level and asked for their input and feedback. And we're just going through the channels right now and doing our part to ensure that this does in fact happen, as well as some other maintenance items around the lake for the town and the state to work together on. If there are no questions, Mayor, that concludes the lake management update for this month.
I do. I sprayed the outflow about 2 months ago. I went back and checked it last week. There's some regrowth and I will be spraying it again.
Good.
Take care of that.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
All right, Mayor, moving to number 2, that would be our. Yes, sir. Number 2 would be our sanitary sewer improvement project. And this project is, as I've stated the past couple of months, it's rapidly coming to an end. The update for the board this month is that the closeout meeting is being scheduled. The meeting will take place, and then at that time, we have our final loan number from the state, which that's just a matter of dotting I's and crossing T's, but it does officially close that project out, and we can begin to move forward looking for monies on phase 3. So it's a brief update, but again, just to bring to council's attention, this project is all but done. The loan amount was $2,998,667, and we've come close to exhausting that amount while doing this project. So if there are no update or no questions from the council, we'll move into the Streetscape master plan for the 3rd project update. And I do want to share this update from Withers Ravenel on their landscape architect engineers. And that's to say that the project team has completed their site analysis and initial concept planning for the White Lake Drive Streetscape Master Plan project. The team prepared 3 different approaches to streetscape improvements, all with a focus on pedestrian connectivity and safety, aesthetic improvements, and opportunities for stormwater management. One concept showed 5-foot sidewalks on both sides of White Lake Drive with some turn lanes converted into planted medians, possibly for stormwater catchment. The other 2 concepts proposed a multi-use path on one side of the road or the other in conjunction with some landscape improvements to separate pedestrians from travel lanes. These plans were presented to the community at White Lake Water Festival on May 20th and subsequently online through a survey that was promoted through the town's website. And we did actually run some language on our water bills to highlight that the survey was going on. We received roughly 130 or 140 responses on that survey. So we did get some pretty good feedback on that. The majority of respondents do prefer a multi-use trail on one side of White Lake Drive, though they are split on which side is preferred. So moving forward, the next steps for the design team are for the engineers and staff to discuss the community input and determine what the final layout will look like. And the goal is to have a final plan for review by the end of July and a final master plan document ready for adoption by the end of August or 1st or September. If there are no questions on that, briefly on the White Lake Stormwater Master Plan, we have had our kickoff meeting, staff and the engineering company. We are looking for ways to tie this project into the streetscape plan to continue some of the stormwater enhancements that are being made or designed in that plan. We're also looking at our 206J, I believe, grant that was done from several years back that started the stormwater ordinance conversation and started the mapping of some of the outlets around the lake. We're also looking to do some individual site work that would present plans to the town on short-term projects that would help mitigate flooding and give stormwater an area to go away from our lake. And then long-term, much bigger projects that would create an infrastructure, a stormwater infrastructure that would be much more sophisticated than the ditches that we currently have. If there are no questions, Mayor, that's all I've got for project updates.
All right, thank you. Would you get to see if there's any sign-ups on?
Yes, sir.
Nothing. Okay. Next item on the agenda is our public hearings, in regard to item 3A. North Carolina general statutes require that the budget officer submit a proposed budget and budget message to the governing body by June of each year, that no earlier than 10 days after the day the proposed budget is presented to the board and no later than July 1. The governing body must adopt the annual budget ordinance, and a public hearing must be held, at which time any person wishing to be heard on the preliminary budget may appear before the board. And that's our public hearing is noticed and scheduled for tonight. The proposed budget was presented to the budget committee, which is the board, on June 23, 2023, and a public hearing is scheduled tonight, June 30th, for any comments from the public. The town has certified that the notice of a public hearing was duly advertised in the newspaper with general circulation and online. At this time, I will open the public hearing, and no one is signed up on the sign-in sheet in regard to this public hearing on the budget. So at this time, I will close the public hearing.
Mayor, can I make more comment?
Yes, sir.
The date in here, it says June 23rd, it should have been May 23rd.
May 23rd. I was thinking that was mighty close. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Presented May
if y'all will note on the third line from the bottom, the date that we met on this, when it was presented was May 23rd, not June 23rd. And again, I would say to you, there have been, all of you have been provided with that. There are no changes that have been made in the budget. I assume none of the commissioners have any changes on that because they were asked to be submitted well before this meeting. And we do have a balanced budget that has been presented to us. At this time, again, with no one signed up to speak, I will declare the public hearing closed. And at this time, I would entertain a motion from the board to approve the 2023-24 budget ordinance as presented.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? If none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The next item on the agenda is actually does everyone have a handout on this? Okay, under B, that is not actually it does deal with the White Lake Comprehensive Plan hearing, but that references again the budget it carried over from the other. What this is tonight is the White Lake Comprehensive Plan hearing that we have a public hearing on. Our planning board has been working to complete a comprehensive land use plan for the town of White Lake. The board collected public input during this process and has held numerous open planning board meetings to discuss and complete the document. At the April 20, 2023 meeting of the planning board, the board voted unanimously to recommend the comprehensive plan for the town of White Lake for adoption by the White Lake Board of Commissioners. And the purpose of the public hearing that's scheduled tonight is to gather any public comment. Plan is being completed and is being considered for adoption as required by North Carolina General Statute 160D-501A as a condition of adopting and applying zoning regulations under this chapter. A local government shall adopt and reasonably maintain a comprehensive plan that sets forth goals, policies, and programs intended to guide the present and future physical, social, and economic development of the jurisdiction. Plan will be adopted under the legislative zoning decision process outlined in North Carolina General Statute 160-601, requiring a recommendation from the planning board, public notice, and a public hearing. Again, it was scheduled and advertised for public hearing tonight. There is no one signed up to speak in regard to this. We were assisted in the White Lake Comprehensive Plan by the Lumber River Council of Governments, and they have worked with us on that. And the person who has been involved with that, and with the amendment and really redo of our zoning ordinance after the provisions of 160D were adopted by the North Carolina legislature. And those have been incorporated into our current zoning ordinance. So that has been updated in requirements set forth in the North Carolina General Statute. So at this time, as part of the presentation and before closing the public hearing, is Jan Maynard with Lumber River Council of Governments here. Jan, if you want to step up, and we'll be glad to hear any comments from you before you start. I do want to thank you again for all of y'all's work in helping us with the comprehensive plan, and in particular with getting 160D incorporated into our zoning ordinance, which has been kind of a monumental process. And we appear to have that completed at this time. So Jan, I'll turn it over to you for any comments you have.
It's always our pleasure to work with the town of White Lake. And with your permission, I'd like to ask Jonathan to join me up here.
Sure.
He was kind of acting as the chair during part of the time that we were developing the plan. But I don't know if you want to say something first, Jonathan.
Like I said, I just want to thank Ms. Jan actually for doing, again, like you said, a tremendous job, and it's a lot of work to put in to get this thing to come to fruition and all. And not to say that it's complete, because it's a plan that we've got to keep working on, and it should be a living document as it says in the thing. We need to review it and look at it and make changes, and come to a good community ideas for the betterment of everybody and stuff. So, but again, thank you again for your time and effort. And I believe it'll be probably your last project before she's going to be retired and stuff. So we won't be seeing too much of her, but we think.
Second retirement.
I was fixing to say, you've done this one time before.
I have, but this one.
Well, I hope this one doesn't stick either. So
Yeah.
go ahead and talk to us. We always greatly appreciate your help.
Thank you,
Jan,
Bob.
really, you and your staff are just good folks to work with. And we do thoroughly enjoy working with you and appreciate the help you provide for us.
Well, I appreciate that. And we appreciate the good board that we have, and the good representative that you've sent us from White Lake has always been a great supporter of the COG. And I personally appreciate that. And I know the agency does. I wanted to brag a little bit about when we got started on this plan. We were just coming out of COVID. People still weren't mixing very much. And the planning board talked about how to get input from the public, because the new general statute requires that. So we decided that we would hold open planning board meetings. We would interview different agencies around the state that dealt with White Lake. And we would also, of course, the planning board was the steering committee, so we were going to get lots of input from there. But we would always also use a survey that we developed along with the planning board. And we had almost 550 people to respond to that survey, which is unheard of. So that was a spur for the project, because people obviously were interested. And as we read through the responses, I felt confident that we had a healthy mix of residents, visitors, and business owners. So we were pleased with what we got. The issues that were identified through the survey, it will come as no surprise that the lake water quality was the high issue, the changing character of the community, the development that was needed outside of the current town boundaries, public access to the lake, family attractions, affordability, and communication. So that covered a lot of area. The board quickly decided on a vision statement and a mission statement. The mission statement you've got, I'm not going to read it to you, the vision statement. And out of all that, we developed goals and action steps. I hope that you've read through those. The first one was, of course, preserve and restore the body of water known as White Lake. We did incorporate all the work that was done in the strategic plan for the lake is included in the comprehensive plan. Monitor future land use. It's really important, and it happens in every town. As your zoning administrator is getting zoning requests, if they're coming in and you can't accommodate those, you need to make sure that if you want that kind of development, if that's according to your plan, you need to make sure that you're amending that zoning ordinance to allow that. Don't let it be something that just sits there and doesn't get changed. Make it work for the town, because you've got a bright future, but it's going to be a difficult future because you're very limited in what you can do inside the corporate limits now. So you've got to figure out how you can make what's here work better for you, and then look at how you can grow outside the current boundary. Another one was to enhance White Lake Drive. You're already working on that. That's great. Strengthen the economy of the lake community while protecting its most valued asset, which was the family field of White Lake. Improve public relations in communicating and marketing. One scary thing that came out of the surveys is that almost 100% of the people that responded to the surveys get their news about White Lake through social media, which is a scary thing because it can be partly true, partly false, and very believable. So the town, we recommended in the goals, the town look at the first opportunity you have to hire a marketing, a public relations person, a planner, all rolled into one. You're going to need Superman, but that's who you need to start out looking for. But you've got to make sure that the town is getting out the information that is true and factual, and that people are building up trust. Some of the responses, we gave people an opportunity to write additional comments. Some of the comments lead you to believe that you've got some room to build up trust with the citizens. So that has to be worked on, and communication is a great way to do that. This was one that came toward the end of the process, and it's great to officially recognize this, put it in writing, and figure out how best to handle it. And that is strengthen the relationship between the markets of Elizabethtown and White Lake. You don't want to be dependent on Elizabethtown, but that is a strong relationship that can work to your advantage, and you need to figure out how best to do that. When you amend this document, and you need to amend it as you go forth, as you reach your goals, you need to make new goals. But when you amend it, always remember that you're going to have to do it through a legislative process, just like you are tonight, by holding a public hearing and having public comment. So I want to share the conclusion. White Lake is different. It's beautiful, it's peaceful, it means so much to so many people. A successful future requires that you build upon that and you protect that. The quality of the water is the priority. That's what attracts people to White Lake. That's what brings them back. That has to be your first priority. The town is aggressively seeking to gather and comprehend the data to better understand the lake. There are still some people out there that are misled about how the lake is watered. You need to continue to preach that same factual message. There are private individuals that are not on any boards in the town that are anxious to help the town. As you go through the strategic plan and the comprehensive plan, you need to invite those folks to the table. Let them play a part. Your problems are too complicated, too wide reaching, for you to handle. You need the help of the citizens, and letting them feel a part of that process is the key to success. Communication, we've already talked about that. This is another interesting thing that you need to be thinking about going forward. Your population is older. The median age in White Lake is 60 plus. In North Carolina, it's 39 plus. In Bladen County, it's 44. So you're very much older than the majority of the population in Bladen County. You've got to do your marketing of the area to all age groups. You need to, we talked about the family feel of White Lake. You know, the signs are really pretty coming into White Lake. And you need to remember to treat your entrances like, I'm coming home from work today, and when I get that White Lake Town sign, all my problems disappear. And I'm somewhere where it's pretty, where it's peaceful, where I can relax. Now, that's not true for y'all, because you've got too much responsibility. But for the person that's coming here to live and to vacation, that's what that sign should give them, that feel that this is a different place. And I want to be a part of it. Everybody, that's part of your vision. Everybody wants to live in White Lake. So I'll be glad to try and answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, and we have taken to heart some of the things that you have brought up and y'all been working on. Of course, part of that was contracting with Lumber River Council of Governments and Jim Perry on the report that was done, and we're kind of looking at our master plan on that. And of course, thanks to Sean, our communications are improving a lot, and I think he has a great deal to do with that. As you point out, one of our biggest problems, and we are working on that and need to continue to work on our communication, because there is so much not only misleading, but also just absolutely untrue information out there in social media that we have to spend time combating, that could be much better spent on working for the good of the lake. And so we have to deal with that on a daily basis. And so we're trying to address that by having and improving our communications, and we'll continue to try to do that. I get that feeling when I come back from work in the evening, this is where I want to be, and I hope everybody else does too. It is definitely my place, I would say.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to work with you. If I can help you in the future, Sean and Pat know how to contact me. So you just let me know, and I thank you again.
Jan, I was going to say thank you, and I definitely hope you enjoy your retirement, but don't be a stranger. So I'm glad you touched on that.
Oh, no, I'm coming back to go with Terry to the barn.
There
She
you go.
keeps
Come on back to White Lake.
Come on.
City, you don't have to drive.
All right. Again, thank you very much, Jan, and thank you for all your work that you do with us on this. At this time, there is no one signed up to speak. I'm going to close the public hearing. And at this time, I am entertaining a motion to adopt the proposed 2023-24 White Lake Comprehensive Plan.
So
Second. Motion second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Next item are the same matters that we have at the end of each fiscal year, and we are now at the end of our fiscal year for 2022-23, and we have several budget ordinance amendments that we need to make in order to be able to close out our finances for this fiscal year. At this time, Sean, I'll turn that over to you. We've got budget ordinance amendments in 5A through 5E. If you will go through those, and I would suggest as you complete each one, we'll vote on each one of those separately as we go through.
Yes, sir. The first item for consideration is budget ordinance amendment number 2023-19. This is a donation that was received by the fire department from a member in the community for a community engagement activity that took place. And it simply is just accounting for the donation and stating that donation will be added to the miscellaneous revenue to close out this year's budget from that regard. If there are no questions, staff would ask that the board adopt the budget ordinance amendment number 2023-19.
Any questions in regard to that proposed amendment? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve budget ordinance amendment 2023-19. Motion second. Any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. John, item B.
Yes, sir. Item B is budget ordinance amendment number 2023-20. This is in relation to our Streetscape grant. This, in fact, the total is a little bit different than what's in your agenda packet. And I apologize for that. We received an invoice this morning and we wanted to account for that. This is 100% grant funds. It's just simply accounting for the expenditure and documenting the revenue source. And then that new total is $27,831. If there are no questions, Mayor, staff would ask that the board adopt the budget ordinance amendment as presented.
Any questions? All in, excuse me, I entertain a motion that we approve budget amendment number 2023-20 as presented with the change that the amount is $27,831. Motion second. Any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye. Any opposed, like sign. Shown item C.
Yes, sir. This is budget ordinance number 2023-21. This is for our comprehensive land use plan. This will close this project out. This, I will remind the board, we've had a budget ordinance amendment for this in the past, and this project was originally planned and budgeted for 2019/2020. And with COVID primarily, but there were some other health concerns that took place at the time that caused a delay. As a result of that delay, that money was unspent in that budget year and rolled into unappropriated fund balance. This budget amendment is accounting for $7,000 coming out of unappropriated fund balance that was previously budgeted for the project and expending that $7,000 to close out our comprehensive land use plan project. If there are no questions, Mayor, that's staff would recommend that the board approve budget ordinance amendment as presented.
Been a recommendation from staff to approve. Unless there are any questions for staff, I would entertain a motion to approve budget ordinance amendment 2023-21 as presented.
So moved.
Motion second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Next matter is item D, budget ordinance amendment 2023-22.
Yes, sir. This budget ordinance amendment is to account for an ARPA grant that the fire department received in the sum of $2,000. You'll see that the revenue is listed and the expenditure is listed to account for that revenue as necessary for the balanced budget in the state of North Carolina. If there are no questions, Mayor, staff would ask that the board approve the budget ordinance amendment as presented.
All right. Recommendation for approval by staff. Unless there are any questions, I would entertain a motion that we approve item D, which is budget ordinance amendment 2023-22 as presented.
So moved.
Motion second. Any discussion? If none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. The last one of the budget amendments is in item E, and it's budget ordinance amendment 2023-23.
Yes, sir. This is another item that was previously budgeted in a past budget that went unspent, largely as a result of COVID challenges. This amendment is necessary to budget the revenues and expenditures for replacing generators at lift station number 3 and number 7. The total you see in there is $13,100. That is the difference in the cost of the generator from 2021 to today, 2023. The funds were not spent during fiscal year 2021, 2022, so they did roll back into fund balance. So staff is, with this budget amendment, staff is taking the unspent funds from fund balance, adding $13,000 to that total, which is the budget amendment you see before you today, and purchasing both generators for lift station 3 and lift station 7. If there are no questions, staff would ask the board to approve the budget ordinance amendment as presented.
All right, staff has recommended approval of budget ordinance amendment 2023-23. Unless there are any questions from staff, I would entertain a motion that we approve that budget ordinance amendment as presented. Motion, is there a second? Any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Under item 6, under other business, all of our departmental briefings and reports are contained for town administrator's office, tax collector, post office, police, fire, and public works, and our fuel reports are contained in that also. As informational purposes, the July 4th, 2023 holiday, of course, the municipal complex will be closed on Tuesday, July 4th, in observance of July the 4th, not Memorial Day. And the public works on-call person will be available in case of water sewer emergencies, and we normally post that on the door of the town hall in case someone needs assistance during that time. So those are the other business matters that we have to present. And unless there are any other items, we're at the open forum portion of our meeting. It's 3 minutes per citizen. If anyone wishes to address the board, you may step forward at this time, give your name. You have 3 minutes to address the board.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a quick comment if I could. I want to thank the staff for the beautiful flower, for allowing some of the South staff members come to my dad's funeral, and your kind words, Mr. Mayor, you said about my father to Bill Kirby of the City View of Fayetteville. He did love the people of White Lake, and he did love White Lake, and I want to thank you and the staff.
Well, I appreciate that. And, you know, Bill Kirby has always been such a strong supporter of the town of White Lake, and he knows the connections down here and knew your dad. So I know that was meaningful for you to have someone comment on it that knew your dad and knew what he meant down here at the lake.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely, yes, sir. And we all, of course, again, extend our condolences on your loss. All right. Again, we're open forum session. If anybody has any comments they want to make, it's 3 minutes per citizen. Jonathan, state your name for the record. We know who you are, but
Jonathan Langston, and then I represent the Chamber of Commerce. Okay,
yeah,
so again, as a reminder, the July 4th fireworks are always on July the 4th. Everybody calls the town and asks over and over and over again. So again, that might be a social media thing to put out because they asked the chamber, and even my sister asked me what day it was. But again, July the 4th fireworks are on the 4th of July. And
we're tricky that way. Yeah.
Besides that, also, there's a slight deficit in our budget for the 4th of July for this year, just because the rates had gone up on the chamber for what they offered, just because there's a premium for being on the 4th. We hope as a chamber that we'll be able to get the funding for what we've got some other commitments from some other businesses, and think we're going to cover it for this year for sure. And I know we missed the budget, you know, immediate info and stuff. But as a overall thing, we will be corresponding with the town to better plan for the budget for next year. So even though y'all just passed budget, so. But anyway, appreciate your attention to that. And again, we'll see everybody on the 4th of July for the fireworks.
Thank you, John. Anyone else?
Big t-shirt.
Yeah.
Fireworks on.
If there's no one else to speak, we do have 2 closed session matters that involve NCGS 143-318.11A5, which deals with discussion of material terms of a contract or proposed contract. And also closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A6, dealing with personnel matters. And at this time, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session, again, addressing 143-318.11A5 and 143-318.11A6.
So moved.
Motion second. Second. Any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign, and we can step into the conference room and conduct our closed session there. Jan, again, good to see you. Come on back anytime.
And we just changed companies, but it seems they're only interested in Denmark.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to be here long enough to resume your seats. At this time, I would entertain a motion that we go out of closed session and return to regular session. Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, like sign. We're back in regular session at this time. We have discussed several matters in closed session. The only matter which needs to be voted upon is a personnel matter. And due to an injury with one of our employees, and we are entertaining a motion for the town of White Lake that an employee may also elect to supplement workers' compensation payments after they begin with sick leave, vacation, or compensatory time, provided that the combination of leave supplement any workers' comp payments does not exceed normal compensation. So that's it. That's what we discussed. I entertain a motion to that effect.
Certainly.
Motion second, any discussion? Not all in favor, indicate by saying aye. If opposed, like sign. One moment. I need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved. Second, all in favor? We're adjourned.